Take a look at the screen you're watching this on right now. Go on. Whether it's your phone, a tablet, your desktop monitor, that thing is a little miracle of technology, isn't it? I mean, we spend hours every single day staring at these things. They're how we work, how we relax, how we connect with people, and let's be honest, we totally take them for granted. They're just there. But have you ever stopped to think about how they got so incredibly good and honestly so cheap? Because it really wasn't that long ago that a screen like yours was pure science fiction. So what happened? How did we get from sci-fi to something in every pocket and on every desk? Well, the story behind it is pretty wild. The answer, for the most part, comes down to one single technology. It's called the Thin Film Transistor Liquid Crystal Display, or let's just call it TFT LCD. And when I say it dominates, I mean it holds a mind-blowing 95% of the market. That's not just leading the pack, that is the entire pack. But here's the thing, this didn't just happen because of one single eureka moment. Nope, it was the result of a brutal 30-year-long manufacturing war, a global battle between corporate giants filled with huge risks, massive investments, and just non-stop innovation. Okay, so let's set the stage. The first major battle in this war, laptops. We're talking the early 90s. The holy grail back then was a powerful laptop with a color screen. But that last part, the screen, that was the big problem. Then, in 1992, it happened. A team-up between IBM and Toshiba finally cracked it. They made the panel for the first real mainstream color laptop. And it was revolutionary. Everybody wanted one. There was just one tiny issue, the price tag. A cool $10,000. And get this, the screen, just the screen alone, was nearly 70% of that cost. Why so much? Well, because making them was a nightmare. The number of good ones they could actually produce, the yield, was awful. They were just so hard to make without tiny little defects. So the challenge was clear. If you wanted to make these things affordable, you had to figure out how to mass produce them. And the big idea, the real game changer, was this concept of mother glass. Imagine baking a giant sheet of cookies. Instead of making one cookie at a time, you roll out a huge sheet of dough and cut out dozens. Same idea here. They'd build all the tiny screen components on an enormous sheet of glass and then just cut out the individual screens. The bigger your sheet of glass, the more cookies you get and the cheaper each screen becomes. Simple, right? Well, that simple idea kicked off an absolute arms race. For the next 5 years, you had companies like Sharp, Samsung, and LG in a mad dash, racing to build factories that could handle bigger and bigger sheets of this mother glass. They called them generations. With each new gen, the glass got bigger, the laptop screens got larger, and the prices started to fall. All right, so with laptops well on their way to being conquered, the industry turned its attention to the next big prize, the desktop monitor. But this was a whole different ballgame. They were going up against a real heavyweight champion, the old, bulky, but picture-perfect cathode ray tube monitor, the CRT. You see, those early LCDs had a huge fatal flaw. You had to look at them dead on. If you moved your head even a little to the side, the colors would get all weird and washed out. But CRTs, they looked amazing from any angle. For a desktop monitor that sits on your desk, that viewing angle problem was a total deal breaker. So how do you solve it? Well, this problem sparked another fierce competition. Two competing technologies popped up. First, Hitachi came up with something called in-plane switching, or IPS. Think of it like the liquid crystal molecules inside twisting side to side, like opening a set of lines. Then, a few years later, Fujitsu fired back with vertical alignment, or VA, which, you guessed it, tilted them up and down. This rivalry was exactly what the industry needed. It forced them to get really good at fixing viewing angles, fast. And once they nailed the viewing angle problem, oh man, the market just exploded. We're talking sales jumping from 1.5 million units in '98 to 15 million just 3 years later. A tenfold increase. The reign of the big, clunky CRT monitor was officially over. Okay, so laptops, check. Desktop monitors, check. Now for the final boss, the biggest prize of them all, the television. To take over the living room, these companies had to scale up in a way that was just mind-boggling. Just to give you an idea, in 2005, Samsung built the very first Gen 7 factory. The sheets of mother glass they were using were now enormous, like 1.8 by 2.2 meters. That's a single sheet of glass roughly the size of a king-sized bed. Can you even imagine? And this massive scale was a total game changer. From just one of those king-size sheets of glass, they could carve out, say, 8 40-inch TV screens or 6 46-inch screens. The efficiency was off the charts. The whole baking more cookies at once idea had reached a totally new level. And this right here, this is the moment everything changed. In 2007, the old CRT TVs were still selling more than LCDs. But by 2008, just 1 year later, thanks to this incredible new scale, LCDs took the lead, and they never looked back. A technology that dominated our living rooms for decades was basically wiped out in just a couple of years. Incredible. So what did all this mean for you, for the average person? Well, the benefit was huge. These new mega factories basically sliced the cost of a TV panel in half. It went from about $20 per inch of screen down to just 10. And just like that, big screen HD TVs weren't just for the rich anymore. They were for everybody. So we've covered the battle for laptops, the war for monitors, and the conquest of the TV. But underneath all of that, holding this entire 30-year revolution together, were 3 crucial, almost secret breakthroughs, the unsung heroes that really made it all happen. Let's break them down. We have a revolutionary new tool, a wider point of view, and a much, much faster way to fill them up. Seriously, without these 3 things, the screen you're looking at right now just wouldn't exist. Revolution number 1, a crazy new tool. See, in the early days, actually building the tiny transistors on the glass was a slow, messy, and super unreliable process. It was a huge bottleneck. Then, in 1993, this thing called the AKT cluster tool came along and just changed everything. It made the whole process faster, cleaner, and way more reliable. This second revolution? We've already talked about it. It was that wide viewing angle tech, the battle between IPS and VA. This was the key that unlocked the LCD's biggest weakness. It's what finally let them stand toe-to-toe with CRTs on picture quality and win. And the third and final revolution happened on the assembly line itself. The old way of getting the liquid crystal into the screen was painfully slow. For a big 40-inch TV, it could take several days. Then, in 2003, they figured out a new drop filling method that cut that time down to a few minutes. That's not a typo. Days to minutes. That was absolutely essential to pumping out millions of big screen TVs. So, there you have it. The next time you look at your phone or your TV, just take a second. Remember the incredible 30-year manufacturing war that it represents. This relentless, brutal push for bigger, better, and cheaper that literally put a high-definition window to the world in your hands. And it kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What's the next big manufacturing war being fought right now, just out of sight?